I am a woman with nothing left but a screaming infant and a resume that smells of cheap laundry detergent. Manhattan in a thunderstorm feels like a drowning beast, its steel ribs slick with rain. I've spent my last $10 on a cab to the Satani building, a monolith of black marble that swallows the lightning overhead. This is my final shot at survival for me and my son Noah. The lobby is an Arctic vault. I shiver, clutching Noah to my chest as I approach the desk. Chloe, a woman with lashes like spider legs, peers over her manicured nails. An interview? In that budget shirt? You look like you're looking for a shelter, not a career. I slam my damp resume onto her desk, smearing her clean surface. Call your boss, Chloe. Either I get 5 minutes, or I stand here dripping until his lobby rots. The elevator chimes, doors sliding open with a hiss. A man steps out, his presence chilling the air further. He wears a tailored suit worth more than my life, skin pale as bone. His ice blue eyes rake over me, lingering on the carrier. A single mother with baggage wants to be my assistant? Lucas asks, voice a low melodic threat. I don't blink. I can handle your baggage, Lucas, and your arrogance. He leans in, scent of vanilla and cold ash filling my lungs. I hope you stay this bold tomorrow, Ava. Lucas slams his hand against the floor-to-ceiling glass, pinning me against the skyline of New York. The city lights below look like a bed of glowing embers, thousands of feet down. His proximity is suffocating, his breath cold against my neck. I can feel the vibration of the building as thunder rolls through the glass. Mr. Lucas, my contract didn't mention being cornered by the CEO. I snap, my voice steady despite the hammer of my heart. This is harassment, not a job description. He lets out a dry, mocking laugh, his fingers brushing the line of my collarbone. The touch sends a jolt through me that feels like a low-voltage wire. You talk about rules in a building where I am the only law, Ava. Most women would pay for this attention. I don't hesitate. I reach into my pocket and pull out my heavy metal fountain pen, holding the nib against his expensive silk tie. If you want me in your bed, you'll have to wait behind the long line of women you've already discarded. I'm here to work. He doesn't move away. Instead, a dark spark of interest ignites in his gaze. He snaps his fingers, pointing to a stack of files that looks like a paper skyscraper. Fix those. If a single page is out of order by dawn, I'll ensure you never work in this city again. The paper cuts on my fingers sting as I haul the last box of files toward the break room. Suddenly, a localized heat erupts between my shoulder blades, an agonizing itch that feels like needles dancing under my skin. I stumble into the break room, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead. I yank my collar down, staring into the mirror above the sink. Beneath the surface of my skin, golden lines are crawling like glowing worms, forming strange, ancient characters. I gasp, the air leaving my lungs in a painful rush. A warm, heavy hand suddenly rests on my shoulder. I jump, spinning around to see Arthur, the firm's senior partner. His touch is like a cooling balm, instantly deadening the fire in my back. He smiles, but his eyes remain dark and unreadable, like stagnant water. In this office, Ava, it is best not to look too closely at your own reflection. Some things are better left unseen. What is happening to me? I demand, my voice trembling. What were those marks? Arthur doesn't answer. He pushes a ceramic mug toward me, the liquid inside smelling of jasmine and something metallic. Drink this. Keep your head down. The real trial is just beginning. A sudden, screeching sound of metal grinding against metal echoes through the hallway, followed by a heavy thud that shakes the coffee in the cup. The power cuts out with a deafening pop, plunging the floor into a bloody crimson glow from the emergency lights. A silver bolt suddenly shatters the glass door, whistling past my ear and embedding itself into the mahogany wall. The vibration hums through the air. I hear the rhythmic, heavy stomp of combat boots on the carpet. Hide, Noah, I whisper, tucking the baby into the narrow gap beneath a heavy oak desk. Men in tactical gear, their faces hidden by white, grinning skull masks, swarm the office. They move with military precision, kicking over desks and shattering monitors. I try to stay low, but a hand grabs my hair, yanking me upward. I'm face to face with a man whose mask is stained with old blood. Found the little stray, the leader Vance growls. He tosses me into the center of the lobby like a sack of grain. He pulls a silver flask etched with a crucifix from his belt. You smell like the pit. Sweetheart, let's see how you like a taste of the light. He forces my jaw open, pouring the freezing, pungent liquid down my throat. I expect to burn, to scream, to dissolve into ash as the legends say. Instead, as the holy water hits my stomach, I feel a surge of primal, golden heat. It isn't pain. It's a declaration of war. I spray the holy water back into Vance's face. The liquid, meant to be a blessing, reacts like pressurized acid against his skin. He howls, clutching his face as smoke rises from his mask. His scream is a jagged tear in the silence of the dark office. "You're a freak!" Vance roars, his voice distorted by agony. He lunges for the desk where I hid Noah, his gloved hand snatching the baby carrier. He presses a serrated combat knife against Noah's soft, sleeping throat. "If the water won't kill you, let's see if watching your brat bleed out does the trick. Where is your master hiding?" "No!" I scream, throwing myself forward, but two hunters tackle me. They slam my face into the cold marble floor, the scent of dust and blood filling my nose. I struggle, my fingernails clawing at the stone, watching the blade press into Noah's skin. "Last chance, witch," Vance sneers, his one visible eye bloodshot and crazed. The temperature in the room drops 40 degrees in a heartbeat. The crimson emergency lights flicker and die, leaving us in a void. From the shadows of the executive hallway, a voice ripples through the air like a funeral bell. "You brought steel into my house," Lucas says, his tone devoid of any human emotion. "That was your final mistake." Lucas emerges from the darkness, his silhouette framed by a swirling vortex of black frost. Every step he takes shatters the floor tiles. The hunters open fire, their silver bullets glowing like fireflies. But the projectiles disintegrate into fine gray dust before they even touch his suit. He doesn't even break his stride. With a casual flick of his wrist, the two men holding me down are thrown across the room, their bodies hitting the pillars with the sound of breaking bone. Lucas reaches Vance in a blur of motion, his hand closing around the hunter's throat like a vice. "Please," Vance wheezes, the knife trembling in his hand. Lucas stares at him with eyes that have turned a liquid, predatory red. He leans in, whispering something I can't hear, before slamming Vance against the wall. He doesn't kill him. Instead, he crushes the hunter's radio and the silver flask, leaving the man a broken heap of meat on the floor. I scramble toward Noah, but I stop, paralyzed by what I see. Rising from Lucas's shoulders are two massive, tattered wings of pure shadow. They stretch across the entire lobby, blotting out the remaining light. He turns his head toward me, the red glow in his eyes burning with an ancient, terrifying hunger. "The child is safe," he says, his voice vibrating in my very marrow. "But your life is no longer your own." 3 days have passed, and the silence in my cramped Brooklyn apartment is louder than the storm. I am frantically shoving clothes into a duffel bag, my hands shaking so hard I can barely zip it. The image of those black wings is burned into my retinas. I need to get Noah out of New York before the shadows come back. A sharp, rhythmic knock at the door stops my heart. I freeze, holding my breath. The knock comes again, authoritative and heavy. I open it to find Lucas leaning against the peeling doorframe. Outside, the narrow street is lined with a dozen black armored SUVs, their engines idling in a low, predatory hum. "Leaving so soon?" he asks, holding up a gold embossed check. "I don't recall accepting your resignation. I saw what you are," I whisper, backing away into the living room. "I won't let you near my son. Keep your money." He steps inside, his presence making the small room feel like a cage. He tosses the check onto my scarred coffee table. $350,000 a year, Ava. A penthouse in Chelsea with state-of-the-art security. You think running will save you from the hunters? They have your scent now. I look at the check, then at the strange, swirling seal on the back. "This isn't just a salary, is it?" He smiles, a cold, sharp expression. "It's a down payment on your soul. Sign and you're protected." The elevator opens directly into a glass-walled palace high above the Hudson River. As I step inside with my suitcases, red runes flare briefly around the doorframe before vanishing. The air here is filtered and sterile, a gilded cage designed by a demon. I try the windows, but the glass is as thick as a bank vault and locked by a system I don't recognize. Night falls over the city, turning the river into a ribbon of black ink. I sit on the edge of the oversized bed, rocking Noah, when a flicker of movement catches my eye outside the glass. A single pure white feather drifts past the window, hovering in midair against the wind. Suddenly, the feather ignites into a brilliant, holy white flame. A searing pain lances through my skull, and a voice echoes in my mind, warm, familiar, and desperate. "Ava, remember the garden, remember the light." I spin around, my heart hammering against my ribs. Standing in the corner of the darkened living room is a man draped in a soft, ethereal radiance. He looks like a statue carved from moonlight. Before I can scream, he is across the room, his hand gently covering my mouth. He smells of ozone and rain-washed lilies, a scent that makes my eyes sting with unexplained tears. "Don't move," he whispers. "I'm Gabe. I've been searching for you since the fall. I'm taking you home." The next morning, the office atmosphere is thick with a different kind of tension. I push open the double doors to the executive suite, expecting Lucas, but I stop dead. A woman is draped over his desk, her back to me. She is entirely nude, her skin shimmering with a sickly, hypnotic violet glow. She turns, her eyes feline and glowing with a predatory lilac light. This is Harmony, and the air around her smells like rotting honey. "Who is this little mortal?" she purrs, her voice sliding over my skin like grease. "She smells interesting." "She is my assistant, Harmony. Get off the desk," Lucas says, his voice tight. Harmony snarls, her face twisting into something monstrous. She lashes out with her hand, sending a wave of violet energy toward me like a jagged blade. I throw my hands up to protect my face, closing my eyes. A deafening crack echoes through the room. I don't feel the impact. I open my eyes to see a dome of brilliant gold light radiating from my palms. The violet energy has shattered against it like glass. The massive windows of the office explode outward, glass raining down on Manhattan. Lucas stands up, his face a mask of shock as he stares at my glowing hands. A sudden bolt of white lightning strikes the center of the room, and Gabe appears in the smoke, a flaming silver sword in his hand. Glass crunching under his boots, Gabe steps through the smoke, his 6 white wings unfurling to full span. The light from his feathers blinds the security cameras. Lucas stands his ground, black wings erupting from his back, a shadow swallowing the office corners. I am trapped between 2 gods. "Step away from her, fallen one," Gabe commands, his voice like 1,000 oceans roaring. "You've hidden her in this tomb long enough," Lucas sneers, his fingers elongating into obsidian claws. "She signed the contract, Gabe. She belongs to the dark now. Her soul is mine by the laws of the deep." "She is not a contract!" Gabe roars, stepping forward. With every step, the charred carpet turns to lush white fabric. He looks at me, eyes filled with love that cracks my mind. "Ava, look at me. Remember the chapel. Remember the vows under the oak tree." I clutch my head as memories shatter my psyche. I saw a white dress. I see Gabe's face, not as an angel, but a man laughing in the sun. I see him holding newborn Noah. "Gabe?" I whisper, voice breaking as golden light in my hands pulses with my heart. "You're not just a savior. You're my husband. You're Noah's father." "You were my husband?" I scream over the roar of the helicopter blades on the roof. Gabe stands in the center of the downwash, his white wings battering the air. The silver cross in his hand drips fresh, thick blood staining the rooftop of the Satani building. The gold pressure from his presence pushes me toward the ledge, making my ribs ache. "He's lying to you, Ava," Lucas says, stepping from the shadows. He twirls a charred silver ring between his fingers, his eyes gleaming with malice. "He didn't just leave you. He wiped your mind and tossed you into a Brooklyn tenement like a piece of junk." Gabe lets out a roar of grief, his fist connecting with Lucas's jaw. The shockwave shatters the lightning rod above us, sending sparks cascading like falling stars. "I did it to hide you," Gabe shouts, his voice trembling. "The thing growing inside you attracts every horror from the pit. I was keeping you invisible by making me a ghost in my own life," I snap, clutching Noah tighter. "Look at your son, Gabe. Look at his eyes!" Gabe reaches for me, but a jagged, non-human shriek rises from the streets below, echoing through the skyscrapers. It sounds like 1,000 rusted blades scraping against bone. I rip my shirt open in front of the bathroom mirror, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The skin along my spine is bulging, heat radiating from my marrow. Ancient characters glowing like liquid lava are slithering beneath my flesh like gold and black snakes. Each movement of the script feels like a serrated knife carving through my soul. The door shatters inward. Lucas lunges into the room, his pupils bleeding into a deep predatory crimson. He slams me against the cold tile, his heavy hands pinning my shoulders. "Don't fight the script, Ava. It's the key to the Book of Eve. It's claiming its master." "It's killing me," I choke out, my vision blurring as the gold light intensifies. The air smells of ozone and scorched copper. I feel a wave of lethal exhaustion wash over me, my knees buckling into Lucas's chest. "Hold on," he growls, his voice sounding miles away. "If you fade now, the world goes with you." As my eyelids grow heavy, I look down at the floor. Thick, viscous black blood is bubbling up through the cracks in the marble tiles, smelling of rot and ancient graves. The dark liquid begins to coil around my ankles like reaching fingers. I wake up in the freezing dark of the sub-level 5 archives. The air hums with high-voltage static, making the hair on my arms stand up. Towering alloy bookshelves stretch into the gloom, driven by massive grinding gears. Lucas told me the Solaris project files are here, the only record of my true origin. I find the drawer, my fingers trembling as they touch a yellowed dossier. The moment my skin makes contact, the heavy mechanical gears scream. The massive shelves begin to slide shut with the force of a hydraulic press. "Move," I tell myself, bolting toward the narrowing gap of light. The roar of the metal crushing the air behind me is deafening. I dive through the last remaining opening, rolling across the concrete as the shelves slam together with a bone-shaking thud. I scramble to my feet, clutching the folder, and rip it open. It's empty. There is only a single piece of paper, a death certificate for Noah with today's date printed clearly on it. "Looking for this little bird?" A voice purrs softly from the shadows. A flicker of violet flame ignites suddenly in the darkness, revealing a pair of hungry, glowing eyes. The purple fire dies down, leaving Harmony standing inches from my face. Her beauty is a violent insult, her skin radiating a cloying, sweet perfume. Her fingernails extend into obsidian razors, tracing a line of blood down my cheek. "Lucas killed his finest hellhound for you," she whispers. "What makes a human stray worth his loyalty?" She lunges, her hand locking around my throat with the strength of a steel trap. My lungs burn and the world starts to go gray. Suddenly, the heat in my spine surges. A blinding explosion of golden light erupts from my palms, hitting Harmony squarely in the chest. She screams as the holy fire dissolves her hands into ash. I don't wait for her to recover. I tear off my coat and sprint toward the edge of the archive's mezzanine. I leap from the 30-meter ledge, the wind whistling past my ears. Below, a massive hell beast with 3 heads waits with gnashing teeth. I land on the beast's center head, my palm glowing with concentrated light. One strike shatters its skull into a spray of black ichor. I stand in the rain of blood, looking up at Lucas, who is watching from the railing. "Hey, boss," I yell, wiping red spray from my mouth. "You still owe me for last month's overtime." "Did you take the files, Arthur?" I demand, holding a blood-stained letter opener toward the man I once trusted. We are standing on the rain-slicked banks of the Hudson River. Arthur stands near the churning gray water, tossing scraps to something beneath the surface. Huge, skeletal demon ribs rise from the waves like jagged rocks. The old man turns around. The warmth is gone, replaced by eyes that are a flat, dead white. "Loyalty is a fairy tale for the weak, Ava," he says. "There is only survival and the power you carry on your back." He raises a hand, and 4 men in charcoal suits step from the mist. They don't breathe. Their skin is the color of wet sidewalk, and their eyes are stitched shut with silver wire. They move toward me with a synchronized, unnatural grace. They want the script carved into my skin. "Stay back," I warn, but the undead guards spring forward. A black Lamborghini screams through the perimeter fence, its engine a predatory roar. The car drifts in a lethal arc, the carbon fiber bumper slamming into one guard and pulverizing him against a concrete pylon. Lucas steps out of the smoking vehicle, his eyes fixed on Arthur. "Do you really want to die this afternoon, old man?" The elevator descends deep beneath Grand Central Station, opening into a hidden cathedral of white stone and gold. This is the council. Half-gods and high-ranking demons sit on tiered benches, their eyes gleaming with avarice as I walk to the center of the floor. The air is thick with the scent of frankincense and sulfur. An elder with a face split between polished gold and rotted bones stands up. "Deliver the protected to us," he declares. "We will strip the soul from the flesh to fuel the divine wards. Give us the girl, and Manhattan remains at peace for another century." Gabe and Lucas move in unison, flanking me. It's the first time I've seen the angel and the demon stand on the same side. White feathers and black shadows interlace behind me, creating a wall of power. "If any of you touches her," Lucas growls, his shadow expanding until it covers the floor, "I will burn this city to the bedrock." The tension is a physical weight. Suddenly, the script on my back burns with a cold, white intensity. My body acts as a projector, casting a massive, glowing map onto the marble floor. A single coordinate in upstate New York pulses like a bleeding heart. Rain hammers against the roof of the safe house, a secluded cabin tucked into the woods. Inside the bathroom, the steam is so thick I can barely see. I scrub my skin, but the heat won't leave. Pink, shimmering runes have appeared on the mirror, swirling in patterns that make my pulse throb in my ears. The door opens and Lucas enters, his shirt discarded. He looks like a god of the underworld, his muscles etched in the dim light. I should run, but my body betrays me. I reach for him, my nails digging into his chest. "I can't stop," I moan, my voice sounding like a stranger's. "It's Harmony's curse," Lucas rasps, his hands gripping my wrists. His breath is hot against my neck, his own restraint fraying. "She's feeding on your desire, Ava. Wake up!" I don't listen. I pull him closer, my lips crashing against his in a desperate, frantic collision of ice and fire. The world narrows down to the touch of his skin and the pounding of my heart. The bathroom window shatters inward in a spray of silver glass. Gabe stands on the ledge, his white wings shimmering with a cold, judgmental light. He looks at us, his expression shifting from rage to a hollow silence. "It seems you've made your choice," he says. The lust-induced haze vanishes like a fever dream. I push Lucas away, my face burning with shame as I scramble to pull my robe shut. On the wooden table, a heavy parchment scroll appears out of thin air, its surface glowing with a sickly light. It is a fragment of the Book of Eve. I reach out, my finger brushing the ancient vellum. The room vanishes. I am standing in a vision of New York City, but the skyscrapers are pillars of flame. The Hudson is a river of blood. In the center of the carnage, I see an altar. Noah is tied to it, his small face twisted in a silent scream. I see Gabe and Lucas locked in a death struggle, their weapons buried in each other's chests. And there I am, standing over my son with a black obsidian blade pointed at my own heart. The vision is so real, I can smell the smoke and hear the screams of millions. Is this what you want? I scream at the ceiling, my voice cracking. The golden script on the scroll turns a violent red. 2 lines of blood-red text materialize. Only the blood of the innocent can quiet the storm. From the nursery next door, Noah lets out a piercing, jagged wail that shakes the very foundations of the cabin. We flee deeper into the Catskill Mountains, the tires of the SUV churning through the fresh snow. The sanctuary is a fortress of gray stone perched on a jagged cliffside. As we step out, the surrounding forest comes alive. Thousands of red, hungry eyes blink from the tree line. Low-level demons and rogue hunters are closing in, their teeth grinding like gravel. "Get inside!" Gabe shouts. He draws a sword made of starlight, the blade humming with divine energy. He plunges into the tree line, a blur of white feathers and flashing silver. Lucas stays by the heavy iron doors, his fists cracking the air with every strike, his back bleeding where claws have torn through his coat. I run through the dark halls of the sanctuary, clutching Noah to my chest. "Where is the guardian?" I yell, but the halls are silent. I reach the inner sanctum and find the leader slumped over the altar, his throat opened by something precise and fast. In the center of the blood-stained altar sits a porcelain doll. It's dressed in a miniature version of Noah's blue onesie. As I approach, the doll's glass eyes rotate to follow me, and it begins to emit a high-pitched, mechanical giggle that echoes off the stone walls. The sanctuary floor shatters as Noah rises, his small body the eye of a hurricane. 4 wings erupt from his spine, 2 of angelic white and 2 of abyssal black. The force of his presence snaps granite pillars, sending stone shards whistling past my head. I lunge through the gale, screaming his name, but the pressure throws me back against jagged ruins. "Noah! Let him go," I howl. Gabe and Lucas stand frozen, weapons drawn not at the enemy, but at each other. "What did you do to him?" "Lucas?" Gabe demands, his voice sharp with grief. "A child of light should not bear the mark of the pit," Lucas snarls, backing away as his black wings tatter in the wind. "I didn't do this. Before you wiped her memory and hid her away, I secretly bound her with my protective blood so she would survive the pregnancy. The child fed on it in the womb. He is a curse on both our houses." Arthur stands by the desecrated altar, a terrifying laugh escaping him. He holds the Book of Eve, its pages bleeding dark smoke. "You fools!" he sneers, eyes burning with silver light. "It isn't just the boy. Ava's mark is the real seed of hell." He sweeps his hand forward, and blood-red chains whip from the book's binding. They coil around Noah's limbs, hissing as they sear his skin. My son's scream echoes through the collapsing hall, a sound that shatters my world. The blood-red chains pulse with a sickening heartbeat, feeding off my son's intertwined angelic and demonic energy. Gabe roars, his starlight sword flaring to life as he charges Arthur. But a barrier of dense black ink erupts from the Book of Eve, swatting the Seraph out of the air like a trivial insect. He crashes into the stone wall, his white wings pinned by the dark magic. Lucas doesn't fare any better. He launches himself at the desecrated altar, his obsidian claws aimed directly at Arthur's throat. The old man simply turns a page of the bleeding book. A localized gravity well slams Lucas face first into the floor, cracking the ancient foundation beneath his chest. "You cannot fight the author's will," Arthur bellows, his voice echoing with the whispers of 1,000 howled souls. "The boy is the perfect bridge. His sacrifice will tear open the permanent gate to the abyss." I crawl forward through the gale, the sharp rubble tearing through my clothes and biting into my knees. The golden script on my back burns agonizingly hot, as if the ancient power inside me is screaming in protest. The storm inside the sanctuary intensifies, tearing the remaining roof off and exposing us to the freezing blizzard outside. I refuse to watch my family die. The red chains tighten, dragging Noah toward the dark void of the altar. Each link glows with a malicious heat, and I can smell the metallic scent of his suffering. I snatch a broken silver blade from the floor, my vision blurring with a mother's rage. I sprint toward Arthur, the jagged metal heavy in my grip. "Release my son, you lying bastard!" I scream, swinging the shard at his throat. Arthur only smiles, a cold, clinical expression. He snaps his fingers, and the cathedral's ceiling disintegrates. Dozens of fallen hunters, their armor wreathed in pale, ghostly fire, plummet from the blizzard outside. They hit the floor with bone-crushing force. One giant swings a rusted mace at my head, but Lucas throws himself in the way. The blow hits his back with a sickening crunch, spraying his blood across my face. "Get her out of here!" Lucas wheezes, his wings dragging in the dust. Gabe thrusts his glowing sword into the air, tearing a hole in reality. A portal of shimmering white light pulses in the center of the carnage. "To the Manhattan subterranean sanctum. Now!" Gabe roars. He shoves me and the wounded Lucas into the swirling vortex. As the light swallows me, I catch one final glimpse of Noah. Arthur is shoving him into a black iron cage etched with glowing, agonizing runes. The door slams shut, and the last thing I hear is the clank of the heavy deadbolt. We crash onto the rusted, damp tracks of a forgotten Manhattan subway tunnel. The air is thick with stagnant water and the faint, sweet rot of bioluminescent moss crawling up the brick walls. I scramble to my feet, hands slick with Lucas's blood, and turn back toward the fading portal shimmer. "I have to go back," I sob, clawing at empty air. "He's in that cage. I can't leave him with that monster." Lucas lunges forward, grabbing my ankle and dragging me down. One of his black wings is snapped at a horrific angle, bone protruding through the dark feathers. "You'll die before you reach the stairs," he barks, voice tight with pain. Arthur has the book. He commands every low-tier demon and hunter in the tri-state area. He hauls himself up and delivers a sharp slap across my face. The shock forces air back into my lungs. "Focus, Ava. If you fall..." The boy has no hope. I collapse against the cold subway wall, the tunnel's silence pressing in. Then a wet, rhythmic grinding sound echoes from the darkness ahead. Hundreds of emerald eyes ignite in the gloom, the primal demon tribes of the New York underground. A familiar swaying silhouette emerges from the pack. "Look what the tide washed in," Harmony purrs, her purple skin glowing dark. "The king of shadows and his little human pet." Harmony glides toward us, her newly regenerated hands scarred with pale, golden burn marks, her long obsidian nails clicking against the iron rail. She stops in front of Lucas, reaching out to trace the jagged wound on his shoulder. My, she mocks, her voice a sharp blade of silk. The great lord of the pit, reduced to begging for help from a pest like me? I don't give her the chance to gloat. I lunge forward, my fingers locking around her slender throat before she can react. "Where is he? Harmony? Tell me where Arthur took my son, or I will rip your tongue out." The golden script on my back erupts, sending a wave of heat through the tunnel. The ancient markings pulse with a dark, regal light that I've never felt before. The surrounding demons let out a collective whimper, their predatory stances vanishing as they drop to their knees in the filth. Harmony's eyes widen, her mocking smile replaced by genuine terror. She stares at the glowing aura shimmering behind my head. You aren't just a carrier," she whispers, her voice trembling. "You are the guardian spirit of the book itself." She points a shaking finger toward the ceiling, toward the world above. "He's at St. Patrick's Cathedral. He's preparing the high altar. He needs the boy's blood to break the first seal before the sun rises." I release her, the golden fire in my veins demanding action. Then we burn the cathedral down. The street-level air is frigid, but silence truly terrifies me. Manhattan has gone dark. Every skyscraper, street lamp, and window is a black void against the winter sky. Then, every digital screen in Times Square flickers to life, bathing the deserted plaza in harsh, artificial glow. Arthur's face fills the massive displays. Noah huddled in the frame's corner. "Look closely, Ava." Arthur's voice booms from 1,000 speakers. "This is the price of your defiance. The city sleeps and it will never wake." As he speaks, the few pedestrians left on the street stop mid-stride. Their heads tilt back in unison, black ichor leaking from their eyes. They turn toward us, jaws unhinging with a wet, tearing sound. They aren't human anymore. They are husks, driven by the book's hunger. "Stay behind me," Lucas shouts. He shifts into his true form, shadow expanding until it chars the asphalt. He swings his claws in a lethal arc, turning the first wave of husks into smoking ash heaps. A streak of gray light descends from the sky, crashing into a parked taxi. Gabe emerges from the wreckage, his white wings now stained dull gray. He holds a small pulsating bundle wrapped in silver silk. It glows with rhythmic golden light. "Ava, there is no more time for half measures," Gabe says, voice hollow. "To save our son, you must drink a Seraph's heart blood. You must awaken." Gabe unwraps the silk, revealing a vial of liquid light taken directly from his own celestial heart. It hums with a frequency that makes my teeth ache. I take the vial, my fingers trembling as the cold glass meets my skin. I tip my head back and swallow the burning, golden essence. The world explodes. It feels like 1,000 white-hot needles are threading through my veins, stitching my soul to the fabric of the cosmos. I fall to my knees on the shattered glass of Broadway, a non-human roar tearing from my throat. "What have you done?" Lucas screams at Gabe, his voice cracking with horror. "The Seraph blood will burn her humanity to ash. You're destroying her." My skin cracks and heals in seconds, the golden script on my back expanding until it covers my entire torso. I feel my perspective shift, seeing the invisible ley lines of power that crisscross the city. 2 wings of pure blinding light erupt from my shoulders, the heat so intense that the surrounding puddles of slush turn instantly to steam. I stand up, the chaos of the street falling into a sudden, eerie silence. The moans of the husks and the distant sirens fade into a single, pulsing heartbeat. I turn my eyes toward the spires of St. Patrick's Cathedral, my pupils glowing like twin suns. "Arthur," I whisper, my voice echoing with the weight of 1,000 years. "I am coming for what is mine." I flare my light wings once, and the sonic boom shatters the windows of every storefront on the block. I reach the cathedral in a heartbeat, the massive bronze doors disintegrating into fine dust under the pressure of my approach. Inside, the Gothic arches are draped in flayed skin and pulsating red veins. St. Patrick's has been hollowed out, turned into a slaughterhouse for the divine. Arthur stands at the high altar, his back to me. He holds a pen carved from a human femur, the nib hovering inches above Noah's chest. My son is suspended in a web of black iron chains, his eyes closed in a forced sleep. "Step away from the boy," I command, the stone floor beneath me cracking with every step. Arthur doesn't turn. He merely flicks his wrist, and a blast of energy from the book slams into Gabe as he enters behind me. The angel is pinned against a stone pillar, coughing up golden ichor as the wall around him begins to bleed. "You're late, Ava," Arthur sneers, his voice echoing through the vaulted ceiling. Lucas lunges from the shadows, his obsidian claws raking across Arthur's throat in a lethal blur. My heart leaps as the old man's head falls back, but there is no blood. Instead, Arthur's body dissolves into a thick, oily pool of black ink. It was a decoy, a phantom conjured from the pages of the book. "You always were too impulsive, Lucas," a calm voice says from the darkness behind me. I spin around, but Arthur's hand is already on my shoulder. His touch is ice, and I feel the newfound power in my veins drain away, siphoned off by his touch. The real Arthur stands there, looking tired and grandfatherly as ever, holding thousands of invisible, shimmering silk threads in his left hand. "The book doesn't need the boy's blood," Arthur explains, smile thin and cruel. "It needs you. It needs the guardian to choose a voluntary sacrifice, fueled by both a seraph's light and the pit's shadow." He points to a massive ancient mural on the cathedral wall. It depicts a woman pierced by a black cross, her blood watering a garden of demons. "The woman has my face. I've lived 3,000 years, hiding in plain sight." Arthur laughs, eyes flashing with the power of the reversal page he has sewn into his own heart. "Even a lord of hell cannot see what the Creator's laws have hidden." He produces a long, black iron spike and drives it through my collarbone. The pain is a localized sun, searing agony that eclipses everything I have felt before. I look up, watching in horror as Noah's black and white wings shrivel like dying leaves. "No," I gasp, strength failing. "I'll do anything. Just let him live." The moment the iron spike seats itself in the altar, the foundations of Manhattan begin to groan. A massive earthquake ripples outward, the seismic wave tossing pews and statues like toys. The cathedral floor splits open, a jagged rift appearing in the center of the aisle. The smell of sulfur and molten rock surges upward, drowning out the scent of incense. "Yes, open the gates!" Arthur screams, his voice cracking with madness. He continues his rhythmic chanting, the words of the book manifesting as physical shadows that claw at the edges of the rift. From the depths of the glowing red chasm, thousands of blackened, elongated hands reach upward. They grab the edges of the stone, pulling the reality of the city apart to let the nightmare through. Lucas and Gabe are pinned by the sheer weight of the emerging demons, their bodies disappearing under a tide of claws. I feel my soul being pulled toward the pit, the iron spike acting as an anchor. My vision begins to fade into dullness. But through the roar of the earthquake and Arthur's chanting, a new sound emerges. Noah's eyes snap open. They aren't blue or white anymore. They are a swirling storm of gray. His small, chubby hand reaches out, grabbing the red-hot chain that binds his wrist. With a single, sharp tug, the indestructible metal shatters like brittle glass. The boy looks at Arthur, and for the first time, the old man looks afraid. "Nobody touches my son and lives," I roar, the sound vibrating through the cathedral's hollowed ribs. I reach back, my fingers slick with my own blood, and wrench the black iron spike from my collarbone. The pain is a white-hot flash, but I channel it. driving the jagged metal deep into Arthur's outstretched palm. He shrieks as my body erupts in dark gold flames. Instead of the book consuming me, I begin to pull from it. The malicious energy pours into my veins. A tidal wave of ancient screams and rotting secrets that threatens to shatter my mind. I see the ghosts of 1,000 years whispering in the corners of my vision. "Ava, stop!" Lucas screams, his voice cracking with a terror I've never heard. "That power will turn you into something worse than hell itself." I look back at him, my eyes glowing with an unbearable light, then find Gabe's tear-streaked face. I don't answer. I wrap my arms around Arthur, pinning the ink monster to my chest as the Book of Eve begins to ignite in midair. With a final, desperate surge of strength, I throw us both into the yawning, bottomless rift in the floor. "Forgive me," I whisper as the sulfurous heat swallows us. We plummet into the dark, leaving the world behind. The wind screams past my ears as we fall, but gravity feels like a broken toy. Around us, the skyscrapers of Manhattan appear as twisted reflections in a sea of blood, flickering like a dying television. Arthur's face is inches from mine, his features melting into a mask of pure desperation. He claws at my collarbone, trying to reclaim the black spike. "If I go down, we both become food for the void," Arthur howls, his jaw unhinging to reveal rows of needle-like teeth. "We will be the fuel for the coming dark." The Book of Eve ignites in the vortex, its pages tearing away like flaming razor blades. They whip through the air, carving deep lines into my skin. I don't let go. I lock my fingers into his eye sockets, accelerating our descent through the distorted void. "Then let's see who burns first," I snap, my voice echoing in the vacuum. Just before we hit the churning lava at the rift's floor, the script on my back flares with a blinding violet hue. My body becomes a vacuum, forcibly pulling every burning page of the book into my own heart. The world stops. In the total silence of the abyss, two massive, golden pupils, each the size of a city block, slowly open in the darkness below. I am standing on a floor made of bleached demon skulls, the air thick with the metallic tang of old blood. Ahead of me sits a woman draped in white silk, her face a featureless void wrapped in glowing scripture. This is the bone library of the abyss. She holds the charred remains of the Book of Eve toward me. "Eat it," the faceless woman commands, her voice vibrating in my marrow. "Or be torn apart by the weight of what you stole." I take the pages, shoving them into my mouth. They taste like ash and lightning. As I swallow, I feel my soul being pierced by 1,000,000 glass shards. Inside me, Arthur's consciousness lets out a final, agonizing wail. I can feel him being digested, his 3,000 years of stolen power becoming part of my own nervous system. "What am I becoming?" I ask, my voice sounding like a chorus of the dead. "The successor," she whispers. My bones begin to pop and reform with the sound of rapid gunfire. The agony is a symphony. When the last page vanishes down my throat, I snap my eyes open. I am lying on the edge of a massive fissure on Fifth Avenue. The sky is a bruised purple, and the Manhattan I knew has been replaced by a smoking graveyard of steel. I drag myself out of the dirt, my fingernails caked with red mud and grit. The vibrant pulse of New York has been replaced by a rhythmic, heavy thudding from the earth. Giant black vines, thick as subway cars, crawl over the ruins of Times Square. The digital billboards no longer sell dreams. They display the flickering, ghostly image of Arthur's soul fragment. "Citizens of the New Kingdom," the screens drone. "Submission is the only path to peace." A patrol of fallen hunters, their eyes hollow and leaking shadows, rounds the corner. They raise electromagnetic crossbows, the air humming with lethal intent. They don't recognize me, only the threat I represent. "Identify yourself, scavenger!" The lead hunter barks before unleashing a volley of bolts. I don't move. I simply look at the projectiles. In midair, the bolts disintegrate into fine gray ash, falling like snow. I step forward, my shadow stretching across the cracked pavement until it reaches their boots. I grab the leader by his throat, lifting him until his feet dangle. "Where are Lucas and Gabe?" I demand, the golden fire in my eyes making him shriek. "Where is my son?" "The garden," he gasps, pointing toward Madison Square Garden. "They're being used for the amusement of the pit." I pull my tattered cloak tighter, standing on the highest tier of the arena. Below, Madison Square Garden's floor has become a pit of sand and rusted spikes. In the center, Lucas kneels, chained by massive glowing iron links piercing his shoulders. He is covered in filth, his proud black wings torn to ribbons. "Kill him! Tear the Lord apart!" The demons in the stands roar, their voices a cacophony of hunger. Vance, the hunter leader Lucas crushed in our lobby months ago, sits in the executive box. He is an undead husk now, his broken body held together by Arthur's black ink. He gestures to a three-headed hellhound pacing the sand. Lacerate him, Vance laughs. Let's see how long the Shadow King bleeds for a dead woman. The beast lunges, jaws open to crush Lucas's throat. I don't think. I leap from the 30-meter balcony, cloak snapping in the wind like crow wings. I land with a shockwave, cracking the arena floor, palm slamming into the beast's skull. The bone shatters instantly, spraying black ichor across the sand. I stand over the dying creature, a smile tugging at my lips. It feels just like the archives, only I am no longer a scared human. I lock eyes with Lucas's shocked, hollow gaze and white blood from my chin. Hey boss, I say, voice echoing with power. You still haven't paid me for last month's overtime. Consider this advance. Lucas looks up, his once piercing blue eyes now clouded with the film of the hopeless. He reaches out a trembling hand, his fingers stopping inches from my face as if afraid the air will shatter. Ava? He whispers, his voice a jagged rasp. Kill me. Don't let hallucinations torture me anymore. It's not a dream, Lucas, I say, my voice steady. The arena guards swarm the pit, their electric prods and suppression spells raining down like sparks. I sweep my arm in a wide arc, a wave of dark gold energy throwing the iron fences and guards back into the stands. I pull Lucas into my arms, pressing my forehead to his, and funnel a sliver of the book's power into his failing heart. He lets out a guttural roar as his body mends, his black wings sprouting new obsidian bone spurs that glint like razors. He is awake, the predator returning to his eyes. But as he grips my shoulders, his expression turns to one of pure agony. You shouldn't have come back, he gasps, his lungs working for the first time in months. Gabe, to save Noah, he gave up everything. He's gone into the deep dark of Brooklyn. He's completely fallen. The ground shakes as more demons pour into the arena. But I only care about the direction he's pointing. I kick open the rotting timber doors of a derelict church in Brooklyn, smelling of cheap bourbon and the metallic tang of burnt feathers. The altar has been overturned, and the stained glass is a mosaic of jagged holes. Gabe is sitting in the dust of the front pew, his 6 wings appearing like charred skeletal remains. Get out, he rasps, not turning around. A blood-stained black cloth is tied over his eyes, and his hand grips the hilt of a shattered holy sword. I've slaughtered everyone they sent. I don't need another ghost to haunt me. It's me, Gabe, I say, my heart breaking at the sight of the man who once shone like the sun. I walk toward him, placing my hand over his trembling fingers. I lean down, pressing my brow against his. He flinches, but as he feels the familiar warmth of my skin, he begins to shake violently. The sword clatters to the floor. Ava, is it really you? He asks, his voice breaking into a sob. Before I can answer, the sky outside the broken windows is blotted out by thousands of floating red balloons. They drift over the bridge like a slow-moving cloud. It's the signal we established, a desperate cry for help from where Noah is being held. I stand in the center of the great lawn in Central Park, flanked by the Broken King and the Blind Angel. The park has become a twisted, black forest where the trees watch us with unblinking eyes. Facing us are the last 100 survivors of the resistance, ragtag hunters and low-tier angels who look at me with raw suspicion. She smells like the book, a hunter snarls, leveling his rifle at my chest. She's one of Arthur's puppets. In a heartbeat, Lucas is behind the man, his obsidian claws hovering inches from the hunter's jugular. Say that again, Lucas whispers, his voice a low vibration of death. And I'll feed your soul to the river monsters. Enough, I command, my voice carrying the weight of the abyss. I let the gold script on my skin flare, the light illuminating the dark woods and making the resistance fighters shield their eyes. The sheer pressure of my presence forces them to their knees. I point toward the distant glowing spire of the Empire State Building, where the clouds are swirling in a violent vortex. Arthur is at the top, I say, my eyes burning with purpose. He's trying to strip the wings from my son. If you want your world back, follow me. We're taking the tower. We hit the lobby of the Empire State Building like a spear. Gabe moves in a blur of gray feathers, his starlight blade cutting through the brainwashed guards despite his blindness. We fight floor by floor, the elevator shafts turn into vertical tombs. The air is a thick soup of gunpowder, sulfur, and divine light. Keep moving, I shout, my palms erupting with energy that melts the steel reinforcements of the stairwell. On the 50th floor, we are intercepted by a legion of high-tier fallen angels. Their eyes are milky white, their minds erased by Arthur's ink. They move with a hive mind precision, trying to crush us under a psychic weight. I don't slow down. I sprint into the center of their formation, grabbing the leader by his throat. I don't kill him. I channel a surge of the book's original purity, burning away Arthur's corruption with a single touch. The angel screams as the black ink evaporates from his brain, his eyes clearing for the first time in months. The observatory, the angel wheezes, his wings trembling as he collapses. He's calling the progenitor. He's calling the first Eve. I look up through the ceiling, seeing the storm intensifying. We are almost out of time. The wind on the observation deck is a physical force, trying to hurl me into the dark New York night. In the center of the roof, Noah is pinned to a massive rotating gear of black iron. His blood drips onto the machinery, fueling a ritual that makes the air throb with a sickening rhythm. Arthur shouldn't even exist. Though I had digested his soul in the abyss, he used the lingering corruption inside the city's ley lines to drag a phantom of himself back into the physical world. He has become a towering, translucent mass of living ink, his many eyes blinking from within the dark fluid. He stands over my son, his hand reaching for the boy's spine. "Stop!" I scream, firing a bolt of dark gold light that could level a block. Arthur absorbs the energy with a mocking laugh that vibrates through the entire building. "You're too late, Ava. The book is hungry, and your son is the perfect appetizer. You will both be the foundation for my new world." Noah opens his eyes, his pupils flickering between white and black. He sees me, and his small lips move in a silent plea. "Ma, Ma." The sound breaks something deep inside me. The Book of Eve within my heart begins to scream in resonance. My skin starts to tear like wet paper, revealing the raw, blinding light underneath. The ritual isn't just taking Noah, it's pulling the very fabric of my soul toward the gear. The moment our energies connect, the rooftop of the Empire State Building vanishes. I am no longer in New York. I am standing in a garden 2,000 years old, watching a wedding under a golden sun. The groom is Gabe, his wings brilliant and whole. The witness is Lucas, his face young and free of the shadow's rot. And the bride is me. The memory hits me with the force of a tidal wave. I wasn't a victim of the book, I was its creator. "No!" Arthur screams, his ink form beginning to destabilize as he realizes the truth. "You are just the sacrifice. You are the fuel." "I am the first woman, Arthur," I say, my voice echoing with the authority of the dawn of time. "And you are just a footnote in my diary." I begin to pull the ink from his body, reversing the flow of the ritual. Arthur howls in terror as he is sucked into the golden halo forming behind my head. The Empire State Building groans under the weight of my awakening power. I rise into the air, my light wings stretching across the horizon, and I look down at the two men who have loved me through a dozen lifetimes. "The game is over," I tell the world. Now I rewrite the ending. The entire island of Manhattan shudders beneath my feet as I drift above the spire. Dark gold script pours from my skin, weaving into massive chains that stretch across the sky, locking the stars in place. The city below is a map of my own design, and every soul within it is a word I can edit. Arthur, now a pathetic swirling mass of shadow, tries to use Noah as a shield. "I'll kill him!" he shrieks. "I'll erase the boy if you don't submit." I don't even blink. I reach out and the space between us folds like paper. My hand passes through the air and emerges on the other side, snatching Noah from the gears before Arthur can react. I pull my son to my chest, the boy's wings stabilizing as my light touches him. Enraged, Arthur sacrifices the lives of every guard in the building, condensing their essence into a jagged black blade. He swings it with a force intended to split the city in half. The dark edge whistles through the air, aimed directly at my heart. I raise a single finger, stopping the blade mid-swing. The obsidian edge shatters into a billion glass fragments the moment it touches my skin. "You forgot, Arthur," I say, my voice filling every corner of New York. "This world exists because I allowed it to be written." The impact of the blade's destruction sends Arthur tumbling to the edge of the roof. Lucas walks toward me through the debris, his bone spur wings folding as he drops to one knee. He bows his head, the proud Lord of Hell finally surrendering to a higher power. Ava, or should I say, Mother of the Dawn? Gabe, his blind eyes weeping gold, lowers his sword and kneels beside Lucas. "If this was all your script," he whispers, his voice trembling, "was our suffering just a stroke of your pen?" The divine apathy begins to take hold, a cold distance that threatens to erase my love for them. I reach out to touch Gabe's face, but my fingers are flickering into pure energy. The cost of godhood is the loss of the human heart. Arthur sees his opening. With his last ounce of strength, he lunges for the shattered remains of the black iron gear beneath us. "If I can't rule it, I'll burn it to the ground," he screams, his fingers plunging into the core of the temporal machinery. A blinding white light erupts from the broken gears, a pulse of pure chronological energy that begins to dissolve the North American continent. The world is restarting, and the explosion will swallow everything for 3,000 miles. "Stop it!" I cry out, but the collapse has already begun. The white light melts my vision, but I refuse to let go of my family. As the towers of New York turn to ash and the background shifts into the prehistoric wilderness of 2,000 years ago, The cycle begins to fold in on itself. I see every version of us, the lovers, the enemies, the strangers in the rain. Ava, destroy the book! Lucas yells over the roar of the timeline shattering. It's the anchor! If you burn it, the cycle breaks. Arthur has become a colossus of distorted time, hurling the wreckage of falling planes and buildings at us. Lucas and Gabe stand back to back. A circle of black fire and white light forming a shield around me and Noah. They take the brunt of the temporal pressure, their bodies flickering as they are erased and rewritten every second. I look at the Book of Eve, which is now floating before me, its pages turning frantically. I see a drawing of myself, right now, crying over the choice I have to make. If I don't burn it, the world ends in this white void. If I do, I lose my divinity, my wings, and every memory of this life. I choose them. I whisper, my tears hitting the parchment like acid. I reach into my heart and pull out the core flame of my godhood, pressing it into the center of the book. The Book of Eve screams as it catches fire, the sound of a billion voices finally finding silence. Each page that turns to ash restores a piece of the world. I watch as the Empire State Building reforms, the glass knitting itself back together and the people in the streets waking up from their long nightmare. Arthur begins to shrink, his power siphoned away by the dying book. He claws at my ankles, his face a pathetic mask of aging fear. Don't leave me in the dark, he begs. You've earned your silence, Arthur, I say, kicking him into the dissolving gray mist of the void. Rot in the pages that never were. The flames climb higher, devouring the golden script on my skin. My light wings begin to shed their feathers, each one vanishing before it hits the ground. Noah's 4 wings disappear into his back, leaving him a normal, sleeping child in my arms. I look at Lucas and Gabe one last time, their forms becoming translucent as the reality reset reaches us. I'll find you, I sob, reaching for their hands. I promise. The world turns into a single blinding point of light, and the heavy weight of the 3 months, the demons, and the gods is lifted from my shoulders. Everything goes black, leaving only the scent of paper and rain. The sharp chirp of a smartphone alarm jerks me awake. I blink, my eyes stinging from bright Manhattan sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. I am slumped over a mahogany desk, a mountain of Solaris project files acting as my pillow. In the distance, I hear muffled laughter of children in the corporate daycare. Ava, are you sleeping on the clock? A voice snaps. I look up to see Lucas standing in the doorway. He's wearing a suit that costs more than my apartment, his expression bored arrogance. He taps his watch impatiently. I don't pay you to dream. Get those contracts printed and on my desk in 10 minutes. I stare at him, memories of 1,000 years rushing back in a silent flood. He doesn't know. He thinks he's just a CEO, and I'm just a struggling assistant. I stand up slowly, walking over to him until I'm close enough to smell the faint scent of cold ash on his skin. I reach out and straighten his silk tie, my fingers lingering a second. You know, Lucas, I whisper into his ear, if you keep being this grumpy, I might have to tell everyone how you cried and begged me not to die in our last life. Lucas freezes, a faint flush creeping up his neck. Outside, the shadow of a white-winged bird passes over the window. I smile, the secret queen of a brand new world.